I am Pops. Thanks for watching Hell on Wheels. I haven't talked about every single show that I've been binging my way through during the writers and actors strikes, but I wanted to go back to Hell on Wheels because I know I watched it. I know I went through some of it, and then I know I always stop. I know I always stop. And I'm like, okay, let me try to go. And then I hit this episode in season 2, episode 6. It's a very sort of like pivotal moment. And I think it actually shows us part of the problem with Hollywood at large. This is in 2012. It's called Purged Away with Blood. Now, if you're not familiar with Hell on Wheels, the premise of the show is Anson Mount stars as a post-Civil War. He had fought in the South. His name is Colin. He goes out west to try to find work, to do his thing. He's kind of an assassin, to be honest. You don't totally know. He's definitely a dark anti-hero. He's played by Anson Mount. Bohannon, that's his name. And Hell on Wheels is sort of like where the railroad is working. It's like this little town, makeshift tent town, where there are all these workers. Everyone's blended together. So you have the black community that's now free. They're still at odds with the whites. The whites don't trust them. So you have racist issues. You have immigration issues. So you have like the Irish people. You have a guy named called Swede. You have stuff like that that's happening. You have the pastor, the mobile pastor guy who's over the top. It's come to find out he has tons of demons and alcoholism. He brings in like an Indian who gets saved and becomes a Christian, things like that. So it's actually a very diverse, interesting cast of characters. I think season 1 flows fine, flows great. Season 2 is exceedingly tedious. They don't exactly know what to do. They pin themselves in with Bohannon so much. They need him on screen, but they can't get out of their own way with the anti-hero thing. Like he does things that he shouldn't be able to do, and he would get arrested or hung for, but they got to find a way to keep him. They don't want anything to happen to him. Then they have other characters that I think they want to do stuff with, but the actors don't have the right kind of charisma. They're either too dark or they're too uninteresting. There's no real interesting guy. So Common, who he plays sort of like the leader of the black folks, right? And he sort of like comes into favor because he becomes very successful. He'll do things. He and Bohannon ends up crossing paths in several different ways, and they start earning each other's trust. And then it kind of there's also times where it puts them at odds with one another. It's all very interesting. Now, what ends up happening in this season 2, episode 6 episode? Now, this is a making of episode, so this is not really the best footage that I could find for you. But rather than trying to download the whole episode or try to get it figured out, give you a little bit. So this is the rich guy, and the rich guy is the guy funding the way, totally corrupt, cheater, 2 ways to Sunday of getting this railroad built. Right. There's also this the love interest, who's not really the love interest. She's a strong woman. Her name is Lily Bell. Her husband had been killed during an Indian attack. She's part of the survey team with the maps of where the railroad's going to go, and she's in all this. And there's a prostitute that Common's character falls in love with. All of this comes to this sort of like crescendo with this episode. And what happens is they are moving people around on this train, and the preacher is involved with betraying everyone. The preacher is sort of like in a situation where he is going to kind of take advantage of everything. And I thought that was just what is happening. They've already kind of dealt with the alcohol thing, like it's gotten way out of control with the Reverend. He's actually now helping the Indians get actual rifles with the help of the Swede. And the Swede is basically like this giant authoritarian figure that worked for the rich guy, and then he got humiliated because he was taking advantage of his power, and then he's just trying to sneak and manipulate the situation, and he's just a horrible human, right? So he and the Reverend are teaming up to get the Indians on their side, and it culminates with this hijacking of this train with the rich guy, the prostitute, and there's this other doc that's relevant to this part of the conversation. But we'll get to him in a minute. It ends up in this big culmination. And what ends up happening is the doc is this very, not the doc, the Reverend is this very complex, complicated man of faith. And I thought, well, they've already done this whole backstory of rise and fall of his faith, his alcoholism. He's got the stuff going on with the church and his kid or whatever. And okay, this episode's going to be his redemption back to his faith through Bohannon and maybe the prostitute even. I thought that actually would all be good. And instead, nope, he is darker than evil. He's going to kill everyone. And it's bring the kids to him and he starts crying and then he dies. And I'm like, what the heck is happening? Why did you eliminate one of, if not your best character besides the main character? Like the main character is the thrust of the show, but like, why do we kill this character off? Okay. Put a pin in that, right? Because this old guy right here, he's got a bullet wound. He's dying. The conversation wasted over whether they can move him or not. It's close to his spine, can't do surgery. I mean, there's so much time wasted for a dude that doesn't die. It makes my head hurt. Like I couldn't believe, I thought, oh crap, are they killing this guy off? Did I remember this guy? Did I remember him being past this episode or not? I thought maybe they're going to kill him off and we'll have a new antagonist. It's because he's not really a villain. He's just like the political money antagonist of the whole situation. Like you need him as much as you hate him. And that's how the show's driven. But waste all of this time. So that's where Doc comes in. Doc is actually like a good-hearted guy who got caught up in the wrong situations because of his ties to the South. He and Bohannon are tight. They were running basically robberies at the beginning of the season. And the Doc is the only holdover who didn't really do a whole lot of things wrong during this one episode, but he's guilty. His name is on a wanted list, right? So now we're kind of stuck because Doc is there and then Doc died. They have to kill off Doc. And I'm like, this episode is a disaster. I don't want to go on now. I'm completely done now. And I thought to myself, I wonder what were the ratings like? So sure enough, I went over and you cannot believe that this stuff is easily accessible even on like Wikipedia. This had 2.7 million viewers. And this was the peak of season 2 because season 1 started at 2.45. So this was the peak of season 2. And then it is a nosedive from there. It goes down all the rest of the way, and then obviously the next season. But it lasts for 5 full seasons. So there's 3 seasons that follow this, and I don't want to carry on. And I thought to myself, Hollywood, stop killing off the characters that we like. Stop creating a morally conflicted, good-hearted person and killing them. If they're a good-heart, we want to see good-hearted storytelling. We want to see good people struggle with things and overcome them. Right? Having the Reverend overcome all of that, having some sort of repentance or story arc. The Doc, there were so many things they could have done, and they did the worst possible decision. And I'm not the only one. Obviously, the audience with me, we just turned it off and did not want to watch anymore. And that's exactly how it is. See this scene where this is Lily Bell. This is him so sick. We wasted so much time on all of this. It was all for nothing. None of it mattered. Here's the prostitute and whatever. And it's like we knew she wasn't going to die. They're not going to kill her. You think they might. There's the Reverend in the background, and there's the Swede. And I don't know. The whole point of sharing all this with you guys is this is what's wrong with Hollywood. Is they don't know how to write heroes. They don't know how to write hero journeys. They want to kill off the good guys, and that's the problem. And this show did it, and I couldn't believe. I really don't want to go on. I'm like, they stopped my binge plan. I had a plan to get through this whole freaking show, and now I'm just like, ugh. So there's only a couple episodes left in season 2. I'll force myself to get through those, and then we'll see where I land. But there you go, folks. Kind of example from 2012 with all of these different things sort of like fermenting, like they hadn't really taken widespread root and become the infestation of the woke and the ridiculous pandering storytelling, all those kinds of things we're joking about and talking about today. Right there, example, front and center. Take care, everybody. I am Pops.